All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this paper I gave you yesterday. Okay, you were to work on this online. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do all 40 of these. I'm only going to do the left half of this paper all the way down. That's the only ones I'm doing. Now, the ones I've already done that I covered in the video yesterday, I've already filled those in. So there's not a need for us to go over those. All right. So most of the reason why I wanted to do this Zoom call today is because I need you to see how to use this. Okay, some of you don't know how to use it. All right, so if you're watching me, what I'm looking at, and then watching me flip it over and look at this list on the back, you'll be able to understand a lot more and be able to do this much faster. Okay, now let's talk about this quiz for tomorrow. So if you are on campus, I brought you this paper copy of these notes. Mine are printed upside down. But the quiz is sectioned into 4 different sections. You've got one section that's ionic. It'll say ionic. Here's all the rules for ionic. These are the notes that I posted yesterday. Okay, the second section is covalent. Here's all the rules for covalent. And then the third section is acids. Now the fourth section is bonus, and that's going to be a mixture of, several things. Okay. Now, I want to remind you, this quiz is going to be locked down tomorrow. You are not going to be able to get out of anything. You can only stay in that quiz until you are done. All right, so that means if you've got this in electronic version, you need to get that ready, print it, write it down, something before you start the quiz, because once you're in the quiz, you cannot open anything. All right, same thing with this periodic table. If you don't have this periodic table printed, you need to figure something out. Okay, you're not going to be able to look at it electronically. So if you don't have one of these periodic tables, you're not going to do well because you use this periodic table to find the answers. So if you don't have this, you need to send me a message and say that you don't have it so I can get it to you somehow. All right, so let's start. So this first one, I'm doing number 2. So I'm not going to do any of these over here. So I'm going to mark these out. So I'm only going to do the ones on the left side. So the first one says mercury 1 chloride. All right, so mercury, now most of the time, this is my first term. In the instructions, it talks about first term, okay? This is a metal. This means the only one that uses a metal is an ionic compound, okay? Because remember that ionic compounds are a metal and a non-metal, all right? So this is the first term here. This is the first term. This is ionic, so I'm going to use ionic rules. Now, mercury is going to be here on the front side of this periodic table. Here's mercury right here. I've got 2 options for mercury. I have mercury +1 and mercury +2. It's highlighted because I've got 2 options. If you don't have these highlighted that have 2 options like this, you need to do that. The reason why I have you highlight them is so that when you're doing this, you know which ones need Roman numerals and which ones do not. So if it's highlighted, you should know, oh, I need a Roman numeral. So that's why there's a Roman numeral here. So if I've got mercury 1, that means that it's Hg +1. Now, the second term, chloride, the ending is important. About 95% of the time, if it has an IDE ending, it's going to be on this periodic table here. So if you look at these, this says nitride, oxide, fluoride, chloride, sulfide. They're going to be up here. It's going to be difficult to find it back here. There's only a couple of them that say "ide" here. For example, cyanide and hydroxide are the few that have "ide" on the back of them. So most of the time, if it says IDE, it's going to be up here. So chloride is Cl. I know that. Now I got to go get the charge. It's Cl -1. Okay. Now, when I do this, and I've got, technically these are equal but opposite charges. I have been telling you that they zero out because +1 and -1 equals 0. Okay, so that's the kind of the cheat that I've been telling you how to do this. What actually happens is these are ones and you don't write ones. But the question is, what happens if it's +2 and -2, something like that? Basically, these are multiples of each other. They would reduce down to +1 and -1, and you don't write ones anyway. But if you want to memorize it like, if I have +1 and -1, they equal 0, so don't put them down, then that's fine. You can memorize it like that. But the formula for this is HgCl. That's the formula for mercury 1 chloride. All right, the next one is calcium nitrate. Okay, so calcium, remember that about 95% of the time, this is going to be on the front side of the periodic table. Calcium is the first term. I go to my periodic table. I find calcium. That's Ca2+. So I'll write that down. Okay, nitrate. Well, I know it's not going to be over here because these are all I'd over here. Okay, this is ionic. All right, so nitrate's going to be back here. Now let's see if we can find it. There it is, right there. It is NO3 -1. All right, now these charges cannot simplify. They do not cancel each other out. So when that happens, I need to cross and go down. But here's the question. This is polyatomic because I found it on this list back here. See right there, it says polyatomic. Okay, sorry, I hit the camera. That's polyatomic. So the question is, do I need parentheses or not? The way you know if you need parentheses is if it's polyatomic and has a charge greater than 1 going on it. Okay, that's how you know if you need parentheses. So let's see if we meet both of those. Is this polyatomic? Yes, it is. Is this charge going on it greater than 1? Yes, it is. That means I need parentheses. Now, this is a 1 over here, so I'm not going to write anything when it goes down. But here's the answer. That's the correct answer. Ca parentheses NO3 close parentheses 2. Polyatomic means many. Poly. So the reason why the NO3 is polyatomic is because it's got 2 capital letters, which means 2 different elements. So that's how we know it's polyatomic. All right, next. Okay, so we've already done carbon tetrachloride. Let's do magnesium carbonate. All right, go to the periodic table, magnesium. Now, I already know that this is ionic, and a lot of these, I already know that they're ionic. Here's how I know if it's ionic or covalent. On your quiz, you're not going to have to know this, but on your unit exam in several weeks from now, you will need to know how to tell ionic from covalent. Ionic ones are going to be a metal and a non-metal. So anything to the left side of this stair step is technically a metal. Anything to the right side of the stair step, and hydrogen's the one exception, are non-metal. So ionic is when you have one from this side and one from this side. Okay, covalent is when they're all from here. All right, so let's do magnesium carbonate. So here's magnesium right here, that is Mg2+. And then carbonate, that says ATE. So I bet you anything it's not up here. There isn't a carbonate over here. So I'm gonna go look on this list on the back. Carbonate, CO3 2-. All right, now, when I've got a +2 and a -2, the shortcut that I've been teaching you is that equals 0, so I just don't write them. They disappear, okay? That's what that means. So these are gone. So it's just Mg CO3. Now, I don't need parentheses because I don't have a charge even going over here. So I don't need parentheses. I don't need that. So I didn't put parentheses. So the answer is just MgCO3. The next one is lithium hydroxide. All right. Well, I know lithium is over here on the left side of the stair step, so that makes that a metal. So this is ionic. Okay, so lithium's charge is Li plus. There it is right there, Li plus. Hydroxide is an IDE, so I'm going to check to see if it's over here, but it's not. So it must mean it's back here. So hydroxide, there it is right there, is OH minus. Okay, you got a plus one and minus one. They technically cancel each other out. So it's just LiOH. That's it. Okay, the next one, number 7, carbon dioxide. Now, I know that this is covalent because I have a prefix. The only ones that use prefixes are covalent. Okay, so we also can check to see if it's covalent or not because it's carbon and oxygen, because carbon oxide. So I got carbon and oxygen. This is covalent. So this is the only time that you use prefixes. Now remember, these are prefixes. So the answer is not C2O. That's not the answer. Okay, the answer, the number goes after the element, so CO2. Now, remember, the only time you use the prefix mono, which is the prefix for one, the only time you use the prefix mono is with oxygen. Well, this is not oxygen, so that's why I don't have a mono out front of carbon. But all you need to know is if carbon's written down, you by default have one of them. Okay, so you just put C for just one carbon, and then you have 2 oxygens for O2. Okay, side note, on my periodic table, I have written all of these prefixes on there. That would be a good idea for you to do that. Okay, if you want to know where these prefixes are, they are in your notes right here. Here they are right there. All right, next, number, I need to write the answer down. Okay, if any of you have a question or need me to stop and explain something, just type it in the chat box. All right, number 8. Strontium chromate. All right, strontium, I know is a metal because it's over here on the left side. It's right there. So this is ionic, so I get to use ionic naming rules. Okay, Sr plus 2. That's what it says right there for strontium. All right, chromate, that says ATE. Probably on this list on the back. Let's see if we can find one called chromate. There's one right there. CrO4, -2. CrO4 -2. Okay. Now, as a reminder, I haven't really talked about this. I'm kind of hitting on different things every time I do a different question. If you've got a number at the bottom already, leave it there. Don't touch it. Okay? Some of you like to start moving these numbers that are already at the bottom. Don't touch those ones that are already down at the bottom. Now, I've got a +2 and a -2. That technically cancels. SR, CrO4. All right, now number 9, it says cupric sulfate. Now that's an old way of saying, excuse me, it says cupric sulfide. That's an old way of saying copper sulfate, okay? One of them is cupris, and the other one is cupric. So that's going to be copper. It's going to be one of these two. So you will not be given one of those. So I'm actually going to skip this one. You will not be given one of those. This is the old way to say copper. We are not going to do that one. So I'm going to skip number 9. All right, number 10. Iron 2 carbonate. All right, now, if it's got a Roman numeral, this helps you out because if it's a 2, it means it's +2. I don't even have to look that up if it's got a Roman numeral, so that helps you out. Carbonate, that's got an ATE ending, so it's going to be on this list on the back. Carbonate is CO3 minus 2. All right, I got a +2 and a -2. They cancel each other out, so FeCO3. All right, so that is how you write a formula from a name. Does anybody have any other ones that you want me to cover from that first section, the first 20, before I move on to getting a formula from a name? I'm not understanding why I'm seeing writer. Okay, there we go. All right, anybody have any questions before I move on? All right, we're gonna move on. 21. So we're given the formula and we now have to find the name. So 21 says KNO2. All right, so K, this is the first term. That right there, that's the first term. So I'm gonna go find this on the periodic table. K plus is called potassium. So I'm just gonna write down potassium. NO2, well, I know that that's polyatomic because I have 2 capital letters, which means that's 2 different elements, which means it's not going to be up here. It's going to be back here. So if you'll go to this list on the right side, these are alphabetized by formula. We're looking for NO2. There it is, nitrite. And that's it. That's the answer, potassium nitrite. All right, 23. Number 22 I did on the video yesterday, so I'm not going to go over that one again. 23 is MgCO3. Okay, so this is the first term right here. I've only got 1 capital letter, so that lowercase letter goes with that capital letter. That's the first term. So Mg is magnesium. So I'm going to write down magnesium. Now, so far, I don't need Roman numerals because I've looked at potassium and I've looked at magnesium. Neither one of these are highlighted. So I don't need Roman numerals. You only need a Roman numeral if it's highlighted. That's why I want you to highlight them. All right, now CO3, this should be a capital O. That's my mistake. Okay, this and this, these 2 things, those are completely different. This actually doesn't exist, okay, with the lowercase o. This is a capital O, all right? This is 2 different elements, 2 capital letters. So that means it's polyatomic, which means it's back here. So if you go to this list, CO3 is carbonate. All right, and that's it. That's the name, magnesium carbonate. All right, 24 I've already done. Let's do 25. All right, BE, this is 1 term here. Go 1 capital letter, that's the first term. BE is over here on the periodic table. It is not highlighted, so no Roman numeral. That's just regular beryllium. See if I can spell it correctly. I can never spell this one. All right, it's beryllium. These are 2 capital letters. That means it's polyatomic, which means it's on the back side. Okay, SO4. I'm going to go to this list. SO4 is the last one. Sulfate. Didn't need a Roman numeral because it wasn't highlighted. Beryllium's not highlighted. No Roman numeral. That's it. All right, 26. CuNO3 2 outside the parentheses. Okay, Cu is copper. That's the first term. So I'm going to go to copper. Copper's highlighted. So I now have to choose, is it going to be copper 1 or is it going to be copper 2? I now have to choose. So we have to figure that out. So it could be copper 1. It could be copper 2. I have to figure out which one it is. Now, here's how I know which one it is. Remember, this is ionic, and when I put this together, I had to cross and go down when I put it together. Well, technically, I can kind of take this apart, and I can figure out which one it was. So this goes back up here. That would just be a 1 because nothing's written there. And this 2 goes back up here. So that means that it's copper plus 2. Okay, so that means I'm going to write it down, copper 2 in parentheses, and then I can name this NO3. That's polyatomic. I've got 2 elements. Actually, I've got 4 elements in there, 3 oxygen. NO3 is nitrate. And that's it, copper 2 nitrate. All right. Any of the other ones that you want me to go over? Let me do this 27. Let's do this one. I just saw this one. This one's like a rare exception. All right. Now, if you notice, this first term has 2 capital letters. This is the rare occasion that you will have a positive polyatomic. Okay. It's actually on this list back here, NH4. It's right there, ammonium. That's the rare occasion where it's positive, so ammonium. No Roman numerals for this one, and then I just find PO3. PO3 is polyatomic. PO3 is phosphite. So that's it for that one, ammonium phosphite. Okay. Any other ones that you want me to do? I'm about to do acids. We've done ionic and covalent. I just realized I didn't do any covalent ones on here. Let me make a couple up real quick. It's a F. That's a F. Okay, here's 2 examples of covalent. Now, I know that these are covalent because look at this first one, sulfur and fluorine. Both of them, sulfur and fluorine, are on the right side of this stair step. That's why I wanted you to draw this stair step in your periodic table, so you'll have that. Sulfur and fluorine are both on the right side. They're both nonmetals, so that means I get to use prefixes. Now, this is technically, this is a 1 here. The prefix for 1 is mono, but you only use that with oxygen. That's not oxygen. So this is sulfur. Remember, the first term keeps its real name. The second term gets an IDE ending. The 6 is hexa. So sulfur hexafluoride. The second term gets the IDE ending. This one keeps its real name. On your periodic table, sulfur says sulfide. Okay, but remember, this is the periodic table of ions, not a regular periodic table. So it's actually the real name for sulfide is sulfur, which is why we put sulfur here. All right, the next one. This is carbon. On your periodic table, it doesn't say carbide. Carbide does exist, but it's different than what you're thinking. But it is carbon. I've only got 1 here. I don't use mono in the front because it's not oxygen. But this is oxygen, and there's only one of them. So this is going to be monoxide. Remember, the second term gets the IDE ending. Okay, all of that for covalent that I just went over were these rules right here. I just went over that. I did everything that I wrote here on how to write the formula. It's what I just did. Okay, here's the prefixes. All right, so let's do acids. We're almost done. Got about 3 or 4 of them that I'm going to do, and then we're going to be done. So here's the first acid, HBr. Okay, whenever you're doing this, you need to figure out what the ion is called. That is the important thing. Anytime you have an acid, and I know that this is an acid because I have an H in front, that should be a red flag to you. Oh, there's an H in front, that's an acid. Okay, so anytime you do this, you have to figure out what the ion is. So what you've got to do on this, and I'm following these rules right here for acids, says take the H off. So I'm going to take the H off. I'm going to take this and put it back up here. So that becomes Br minus. Well, that's a single element. So that's going to be here. So I got to figure out what Br minus is called. It's called bromide. I know you can't read that. It's called bromide. So it's called bromide ion. So let me go to my acid rules. I did write my acid rules on my periodic table. This would be a good idea for you to do. And you've got 3 rules. Rule number 1 is ide ending, 2 is ite, and 3 is ate. Okay, these are also on your notes here. First rule is ide, second rule is ite, third rule is ate. Here's what it turns into. So we're doing the first rule. It's going to be hydro, whatever the base is, ic acid. So this is going to be called hydrobromic acid. All right, number 35. H2SO3. All right, take the H off. Put this back up here. That becomes SO3 2 minus. So then what you do is you figure out what this is called. SO3 2 minus. I got to figure out what the ion's called. SO3 2 minus. Sulfite. Sulfite ion. So this is rule 2, ITE endings. That's rule 2. This one right here, rule 2. So I go, and it's got the OUS acid ending. So this is called sulfurous acid. Now, I get asked questions every time about, is it sulfurous acid, sulfurous acid? I don't really care. If you figure out that it's an OUS acid, I'm happy. Okay, I'm not going to take off for spelling. No, tomorrow it's all multiple choice. All right. So that was sulfurous acid. Let's do 38 and 39 and we'll be done. So 38 is nitric acid. So you've got to figure out which rule it used to figure out what the ion's called. So this is ic acid. So that's the third rule right here. So it used to be called nitrate. Nitrate. Well, if you look at the formula on the back of the periodic table, nitrate, let's see, where is nitrate? There's nitrate right there. Nitrate is NO3 minus 1. Okay, all I do now to make it an acid is put that H on the front. That's all I got to do. Okay, these two plus 1 and minus 1 cancel each other out. So your formula is HNO3. All right, last one is perchloric acid. Okay, now this prefix here is specific. Okay, that's one of the ones that if you see it, it means it came from somewhere else. You have to leave it alone. Don't touch it. So let's see if we can find something called like perchloris or perchloric or perchlorate or something on here. There's one right there. It says perchlorate. So that formula is ClO4 minus 1. ClO4 minus 1. So all I do now is add that H on the front to make it an acid. These are both plus 1 and minus 1. So your answer is HClO4. All right. Now, is there any other question from this sheet that you want me to go over? Give me a number and I'll go over it if you want me to go over it. Or if you have a question. Abby, you want me to just show them on the screen or you want me to show you how to use them? What do you want me to do? Okay. These are in the notes I gave you though, Abby. You've got this piece of paper. Yeah, I am. Okay, Abby. Anybody else? Got anything else you want me to do? Okay. So if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the Zoom call. Later today, I will post this Zoom call. This is all we're doing today. The rest of the day, you need to prepare for that quiz tomorrow. Okay. It's 48 points. You only get 2 points for bonus. I've already had one person take it because she wasn't going to be here. She did well. So it is possible for you to do well. Anyway, if you have any other questions, you know how to find me.